I was an RN and loving mother of 2 at the time of my death. My son was 17 and my daughter was 5. My husband became more and more threatening, and I was planning my escape. The day he killed me, I went to the courthouse to ask about a PFA and made an appointment to get one for the next morning. Then, I spoke to a lawyer about filing for divorce, and the whole time I knew he was stalking me and watching my every move. It was Ash Wednesday, and my children were not at home that night. When I tried to leave, he shot me 3 times at close range with a .357 Magnum. Lewis Dowdle Jr. was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Why does this happen? What causes domestic violence?
What causes domestic violence? I think it would be impossible to just pinpoint one thing is the cause. There are a number of factors that would contribute to domestic violence. One of the primary ones that I think is important to think about right now is the impact of economic stress on the families, because we know that when there are more financial problems, there tends to be more conflict within families, and incidences of domestic violence also tend to go up in the home. Parents who are able to find jobs and support their families is the best solution for preventing domestic violence. Certainly that's not the only thing that's needed.
That's where the Lawrence County Crisis Shelter steps in.
The Crisis Shelter of Lawrence County empowers and advocates for those affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, and other violent crimes. We inspire and educate citizens to create safer communities and break the cycle of violence. We provide training to law enforcement, medical professions. We do hospital in-services for domestic violence awareness. We have a prevention education team and a outreach department who provides trainings in high schools, actually in all of them in Lawrence County, and we hold many trainings throughout the year to help facilitate a more organized system for victims of crime.
The Crisis Shelter provides an array of services with an ever-expanding list.
We like to get the community involved by doing a lot of events with other agencies. We do individual advocacy with clients, but we are also very popular when it comes to doing systems advocacy. We have tons of members of the community that are an active part of our agency every day, whether it's word of mouth, if it's at church. Typically we get a lot of referrals from the hospitals and naturally the police departments. Our agency also files crime victim compensation claims, and that's something that I have to do.
Anything that is related to reducing stress in the family or helping people learn how to better manage conflict and problems in the family is going to have a positive impact. So education can also play a role. We know that children who grow up in homes where there's been past abuse are more likely to then see aggression as a way to solve problems, and therefore you can have a generational spillover of domestic violence in the home. So any type of education that can help interrupt that cycle and help teach people better ways of coping with conflict and what's okay and what's not okay and in dealing with relationships is positive.
It's a proven fact that boys who witness domestic violence in the home are 2 times more likely to become abusers when they reach adulthood. So I think it's really important to talk to them when they're young, because sometimes that's all they know is what they witness in their house or in the media. So if we talk to them and say this is a healthy relationship and this isn't, this is not normal, then they get that sense at a young age. We go to all kinds of different schools. We go to community events. We talk to kids ages pre-K through college. So we do presentations on touching safety, presentations on bullying and cyberbullying, technology safety, things like that. So we talk to all ages, and we also do community events too. And one of the most recent things that we've been working on, it's been established for about a year, but we've been working on improving and expanding, is called SAVE. It stands for Students Against Violence Everywhere, and the Crisis Shelter of Lawrence County expanded it, so it's SAVE 4, and it's to empower, educate, engage, and encourage students. And so we go to all the county schools and we talk to students, and they're kind of the leaders to promote anti-violence and non-bullying. Some of them that are really young, they seem to understand and they care about it a lot. So that's important. I think that's really good too, to see when we go out there that they care about it. And especially the students who join the Save Club, because it's an extracurricular activity. They don't have to be in, but they choose to be in it to stop violence.
I know one thing that we often teach in terms of domestic violence is how there's often a cycle, because often people will ask, well, why does somebody stay in an abusive relationship? And what happens is that there's a cycle, so that usually in couples where there's violence, it's not always violent. And after a violent episode, there's usually a period of time when the aggressor asks for forgiveness and the couple promises to change. And what then gradually happens over time is frustrations will build up again, and there may be another battering episode. But it tends to be more cyclic, and there's actually some periods of time when things are calm and the couple may be functioning relatively well, but then lead up to another cycle of violence in the home. Well, I think the most important thing for somebody to leave an abusive relationship is to feel like they have alternatives. And one of the best predictors of whether or not somebody continues to stay in an abusive relationship versus leave an abusive relationship is whether they actually have a place to go, and whether or not they feel that they'll be safe and protected and their children will be taken care of if they leave that relationship. And I think that's why places like the crisis shelter are so critical for people. Without that, people would probably be more likely to stay in those relationships.
We provide two different types of housing. We provide emergency shelter. Anyone can come in and they'll be put into the shelter for a 72-hour period, and then they'll be evaluated by a case manager to see if they qualify to stay. And if they do, then a woman and her child or children can stay in the shelter for up to 30 days. The transitional housing unit, those are 4 units that we have right now. And so a woman, if she qualifies, she can come and she can stay in one of the 4 apartments for up to 2 years. And during that time period, she has a case manager that will help her get the education that she needs or a better job, so that when she does leave, eventually she'll be able to survive on her own, in her own apartment, and kind of get back on her feet again.
Silent Witness Project honors and remembers those who have been murdered in acts of domestic violence around the world. Our local exhibit also honors survivors who have overcome the threat of violence in their lives and to their lives. The Silent Witness National Initiative began in 1990 with a group of 8 women from St. Paul, Minneapolis, who decided to address domestic violence murders in their community. This grassroots project soon spread to other states and is now present in all 50, as well as in other countries. These witnesses represent a small number of those who have died in Lawrence County. Thousands of adults and children suffer the effects of domestic violence in this community every day. Domestic violence is a community problem that requires a community solution. Awareness is the first step to prevention and intervention. Join us in stopping the violence now.
If you want, I'll be. If you want, I suppose I should walk inside.
Violence in general is on the increase. Sexual assault and domestic violence is at the forefront.
That way.
Unfortunately, it is becoming really a problem here. Everywhere, I'm sure, but it's so sad to see, the people who have lived in the area for so long and their neighborhoods are not safe. Crime affects everyone, and no one knows what goes on behind closed doors.
The Fight for Zero website has information on it about domestic violence and different types of assault for teens and for parents. And so you can go online and there's actually a live chat. So maybe someone who has a question or thinks they're a victim but they're too shy to step forward, they can go just like they would do on Facebook or AOL Instant Messenger. They can talk with someone who's a trained professional here 24 hours a day. Just type it in and ask them questions and they can get help that way.
I would love to think it could be stopped. I mean, I guess that's sort of the big question. Can we ever completely do away with evil or the darker side of human nature? And I don't know that we can ever completely eliminate it, but I certainly think we can do a lot better than we're doing now.